Good morning and welcome to the BlackUSA.News morning show. Wow, the city of Baltimore, what is going on? From the way things look, Baltimore will never, ever produce a Marion Barry type. When I think of a Marion Barry type, I think of someone that helped Black businesses, someone that looked out for the Black community, unapologetically so. But it seems as though every time we get a strong Black leader or a leader that made it in there without the establishment per se, bop goes the weasel. And so here we are back in this situation all over again. I mean, it's as if we go from one thing to another. But nonetheless, you ready? You want to get to our guest this morning. Good morning. You got on red, do you?
Yes, I do. How you doing, Donnie?
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning. How have you been?
Man, life's a bowl of cherries. Just got to know how to pick them.
That's right. Oh, I love that.
Never heard that one. That's a Donnie Glover original.
I like it. I like that.
You would have loved my daddy. He had a whole bunch of things like that.
My dad did too.
He had a bunch of one-liners. Give me one of them. Give me one of your daddy's one-liners.
One of them is, and let me see. Anger is one letter away from danger. Stay away from it.
It is hard in Baltimore.
Oh, gotta just put yourself in around the right people, right? It's all about company.
Oh, I don't know. Alicia, what have you been up to? Last time we interviewed you, you had a different place of employment.
Yes. So now I'm at Hopkins. I've been here about a year and a half. I came August of 2019, and to lead our economic development work. And it's been a great opportunity. I've had so many things happen. I didn't expect for COVID to happen. And so that really that was a challenge, but also an opportunity to really think about how to connect in a different way with people and to connect them to the institution. So I embraced that challenge. Was able to, launch an anchor strategy work group in tandem with a number of leaders across the institution. And now I have a number of different projects that are really exciting. I'm running co-chairing an innovation fund for community safety that we launched, a $6 million fund, doing a lot with small, local, and even larger minority-owned businesses, getting them into our supply chain and uplifting them, getting them into other supply chains of our partner organizations. We have an event on Wednesday about COVID and working with youth and helping them really to be leaders. And not just helping them be leaders, they are leaders, just giving them the platform to lead and giving them the space and the opportunity to lead in spaces. So all of those things going on.
Now, I learned something about you over the past few months that I did not know, that you went to Mervo.
Yes.
Back in my day.
I told you that.
Huh?
I thought I told you I went to Mervo.
Oh, well, I didn't connect all of the dots, Alicia. But back in my day, Mervo had one heck of a wrestling team. I was a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And around 83, you had some pretty strong wrestlers there. What? Tell me about Mervo. Tell me about life there. What was that? Hill and Road.
Hill and Road, yeah. No, it was an amazing opportunity. So I went there from, I guess, 96 96 to 2000. I graduated in 2000. It was a trade school. I think an amazing opportunity. My dad encouraged me to go there. He wanted me to make sure I had a trade, in case I needed to pay my way through college or if I needed to just have a marketable skill. And so everyone from the ninth grade on, what'd you say?
What's the skill?
So I took business, and so I was computer programming was my trade. So I came out with certifications to program in a couple of different languages, and could have gone out and gotten a job programming straight from high school, which would have been great, but it wasn't my love.
How did you find your love?
I talk about this a lot, but it's really about exposure. And so when I was 15, I participated in a program in Baltimore called Law Links. And Law Links, well, now it's called My Law, but it allows for 15, 16-year-old kids from the city to intern in law firms and legal nonprofits. They give us professional attire, suits, and interning with lawyers at 15, I realized the power of words, the power of advocacy, and I was hooked. I knew that, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be an advocate. I wanted to be able to use words and represent, issues larger than myself. So that was really, really transformative for me.
Well, this guy here is one of our co-hosts from time to time. He claims he's a lawyer too.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Good morning. Good morning. We have seen one another, but never been introduced. But I gotta tell you that a person who I hold in the very highest esteem says you're good people. So you come in with a perfect score. All you can do is go down.
Oh, thank you.
Shalon is a very good friend, and
she's wonderful.
She is
wonderful.
And she
well,
says,
then you come in with a perfect score too.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what they used to tell me when I had a professor at Morgan who said, "Look, I got the A, so the best you can hope for is a B if you come to class." So, good morning, Donnie. How are you?
I'm good, big brother. She was just telling me about how she fell in love with the law field, and it was called Links. Law Links. Is there a particular firm that manages that? Is it a group of lawyers? Is it
So the Maryland State Bar actually houses that program, and they have it both in Baltimore and in Prince George's County. And so, every year about 30 young people, get that opportunity from all the different high schools. It's a great program.
And so what happened? I mean,
when I came along, Donnie, it was called there was a thing called the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under Law. And at that time, it was being promoted by former Judge Kenneth L. Johnson, who retired from the circuit court in Baltimore City many, many years ago. It was Ken and Larry Gibson, actually. And the aim of the program was to interest college African Americans students into the legal field, and to do that by offering us interns in existing firms. I was the first one in the program and ended up with a firm called Frank Bernstein, Conaway and Goldman. Which went out of business, I don't know, 20 years ago, maybe. I guess I lose track of time. But in any event, it was those days when I met a young fellow who everybody's come to know, named Ron Shapiro. And Ron and I worked together for a time back then and subsequently. So it sounds like the program that Alicia's talking about may be either an outgrowth of that or very similar to it in any event.
Well, since this is Women's History Month, who was the first Black woman lawyer in Baltimore or Maryland? Might either of you know?
Lena Kaylee. Oh, Black woman?
Yeah. Black woman.
I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to Google it. But the first.
Juanita Jackson Mitchell. I'm sorry.
Mitchell, yeah, that's who I was thinking about. But
Juanita Jackson Mitchell.
Because She
What's
sued
that?
Maryland. She sued Maryland.
Yes.
And Donnie, so that you know, in the early days when there weren't lawyers appearing before the City Board of Estimates, Juanita Jackson Mitchell was on occasion one of the few other Black lawyers that was there, of any lawyers, period. And she you always knew when it was her talking, because she had this very high pitched voice. I mean, if you can imagine what it sounds like when you're scratching your fingernails across a chalkboard. That's how her voice made me feel. But that was, again, back in the early 70s. So, but I remember.
So then you took the you were with the law links, and then you went to law school.
And then I went to, I was 15 years old and then I went to undergrad. So I went to UMBC. And then went to University of Maryland School of Law.
So what about law, bit you?
I think the power of law, right? So how I think it was really attractive to be able to in the legal profession, you represent an entity, an issue, an individual, and able to use arguments as well as law to really advocate for a result. And so I think that is really attractive, that you can utilize the power of your mind to really transform things for an individual. But if you are, if it's the right case, the right facts, you could do it for a group that's much larger than that individual and for a time period that extends far beyond that individual case. And so I think the attraction to me was impact, right? How do you impact this world? And I think law is a really powerful vehicle through which to, impact the world.
So at Hopkins, you deal with diversity. What's the specific title?
Economic development. So I deal with supply procurement, HR, investments, real estate. It really is a cross section of a number of different collaborations within the university and the health system to impact Baltimore, but also impact, every place where we have a footprint.
Well, that's the entire city.
Yeah. But we also have Howard County, we have Montgomery County, DC, Florida. So there's, many people think of like Baltimore, Hopkins as a Baltimore footprint. And we have places every, global. Yeah.
Where do Black people fit in that picture?
So I think in my work.
Well, so between your work and Hopkins' global footprint, we're here in Baltimore, specifically East Baltimore. Yeah. What does that mean for Black people? Because from my perspective, seeing you there means that we have a better chance. That's what my mind tells me, based on what I've seen with your work with Port Covington. I am thinking they know they have a history, and to have a you there puts a different face on what the local perception might be.
Yeah, and my goal isn't just to have like a local, the reality to change, right? So the shift. When we talk about procurement, we talk, very explicitly about Black businesses, getting them into our supply chain, getting them contracts, becoming a customer, and growing alongside them. When we talk about hiring, what zip codes are some of the zip codes that are the hardest hit? What are some of the census tracts? And how do we ensure that individuals, and they're not just, may not be just Black, but certainly in a city of Baltimore, it is the result is that it's majority Black. Really thinking about employment, not just bringing them, not just hiring, but how is their advancement and at what rate, and how can we accelerate that? We also, when you talk about investments, we talk very explicitly about, Black money managers, as well as Black investment firms managing our endowment, managing, being those who manage our money, whether it be it banking relationships or the like. And when you talk about real estate, where are we being catalytic? So how could we take a lease in a building that would allow for a deal to take place? How can we ensure that, businesses are thriving in proximity to us? So all of that, and we've tried to, in many ways, use our platform to uplift those businesses on a weekly basis. We have a series that we've been running for about 34 weeks, which uplifts businesses from in Baltimore to get them, one, to be utilized at a greater rate, but also to introduce them into, again, our supply chain. So they ultimately can be a part of getting contracts and having us as a customer.
Because Hopkins is, help me out, the largest employer in Baltimore.
The largest employer in the state, of course, the largest employer in Baltimore. Yep.
And so, what is your hope for Black people?
What'd you say?
What is your hope for Black people as it relates to Hopkins, procurement, business? Yeah.
No, my hope, and not just my hope, but my agenda is to ensure that Black folks share in the prosperity of our work, that they are able to share in the same gains that we as an institution, that they're able to leverage the innovation, that we're able to leverage the innovation of the Black community. I mean, what I would say is that I think Black businesses, Black-led organizations in Baltimore are really, in many ways, the heartbeat of our city. And the ability for Hopkins to, our heartbeat, to beat faster, for us to all grow together, I think that's really just central part of the agenda.
You think Baltimore will ever be like an Atlanta or a DC? Or at least how DC used to be?
I hope not. I hope Baltimore is a Baltimore, right? I mean, and I know that sounds funny, but I hope we grow and retain the best parts of our city while shedding those things that we never are ills, right? I would hate to us to lose like the neighborhood feel of our city. I would hate for us to lose like the pride that we have in our high schools. But I'd like for us to certainly lose the fact that we're losing young people in our city. Not just to death, but just to a lack of opportunity. I want to shed, I'd like for us to shed all of the things that aren't allowing for us to grow and thrive. And I mean, not all, not just some of us, like all of us. So, I think we should keep our character, but we should be growing. Yes, like we should have a growth rate like a San Francisco. But we should be able to not lose ourselves in the process of doing that. If I hope that.
Bob, you want to chime in?
Yeah, yesterday, Evanston, Illinois, I think became the first city in America to pass a reparation bill.
I saw that. It was beautiful.
Well, I'm not sure all will agree on how the process that was used to get there, or the dollar amount that was provided for. I think there's basically a $400,000 grant to be allocated among all the Black folk there who are deemed somehow to be eligible. And I think there was some years of applicability. I'm not sure, but in any event, the question is, do you see reparation coming to Baltimore? And if so, what? Yes, and what would that look like when it gets here, if it gets here?
I think reparations could come to Baltimore and should. What form does that take? I'm less clear on. I think if you did it at a city level, it might, you might have to begin that through and reconciliation. So you know what you're hearing, right? And so you can have a reparation that is right. But I think we know in some respects those categories, those things that need repairing. But I think to go deep into like disrupt the structures that really allow for, that are persisting, that allow for inequities to persist, you'd have to really dig deep and dismantle those structures, which is disruptive. And so we'd have to, have very much either, somehow a structure and a process to do that.
Alicia, you're from East Baltimore, right?
Yes.
My first memories from East Baltimore. The year was roughly 1968. The corner was Patterson Park and Landville. And this big kid down the street tried to take my toy. And you know what happened, right? That's when the fight broke out. I learned there in East Baltimore that you better stand up for yourself, because if you don't, somebody gonna take your toy. And you know what my mama said? Don't come in here crying.
Yeah.
We've been bullied in this town, from housing segregation going all the way back to the days of Mayor J. Barry Mahul. Now, you're a lawyer. He had two nemesis that would jump on his case. J. Barry Mahul was the father of segregation. But there were two black lawyers, Ashby Hawkins and George McMecken, after which McMecken Street was named. And they used to ride him like white on rice. My point is, what I've learned in Baltimore, you got to fight for what you want. And if you don't fight for what you want, you'll never get it.
No.
How do we get what we need? Because I understand not disrupting big business, but I'm looking at black business. Black business has been terribly disrupted, and throw COVID on top, it's like, wow. You know, I figured that by now we would have heard some reports how black businesses in Baltimore, were getting some help, because we hear talk of money coming to Baltimore, and I don't know, I just hear talk, but millions and millions have come here, PPP, stimulus, this, that, and I just wonder, how does it ever get to our community?
So there's a couple of different things. One, when you talk about like PPP, you really look at who gave out, who received PPP first round, second round, and how did they receive it? What did it do? What did it do to look at it? If you look at who got the most PPP, or let's say this, the bank that
Bob,
gave out
that thing on mute.
You say?
Hey, Bob, can he put his computer on mute?
Oh, it's
Bob, get a lot of messages. Okay, I'm sorry.
If you look who the bank that gave out the most PPP during COVID, it was Rosedale Federal Savings and Loan, which isn't it's a bank, full disclosure, I'm on the board of now, but it was not, it's a bank headquartered in Baltimore County that had an impact on the city. They were able to give out more PPP to black businesses than any other bank, right?
What's the bank again?
Rosedale Federal Savings and Loan.
Really?
So yeah, it was in the Wall Street Journal. It actually caught the attention of the Wall Street Journal. I'll make sure you see the article. It's probably about a month ago. But then you look at like, what are the needs of, so there've been a number of different initiatives. I'm not saying perfect, but a number of initiatives to try to, retain our black businesses. I think the biggest challenge, which most of our businesses confronted, was, being able to ramp up during this time. When George Floyd was murdered, the attention and the amount of business that many businesses received exploded. But how could that be? What was the sustainability model around that? How could they absorb the amount of interest that, they received? In addition, how could they sustain the capital demands, right? So PPP really was about paychecks, protecting the paychecks. But we also had, real estate. So how do we not lose the, the footprint that those businesses have? And more importantly, thinking through, why are so many of them renting? Why, how can we convert them from being renters in someone else's business footprint to being owners of those storefronts? Which,
especially when rent and mortgages are not often that different.
no, not any different. So how could we, really create a robust plan to have businesses own the footprint in which they operate? I think that plan would be foundational for our city. I do think the plan that Shalonda came up with really is to, think about the CBD and that 50, the fund that they've created to allow for businesses to have storefronts in downtown Baltimore. Significant. I think more money added to it would be huge. But I think amazing.
The boost program.
Yep. Yeah.
Was that 50,000 for Black businesses to move downtown? I think the guy's name is Fearless.
Delali Daraza, who's a UMBC grad, an amazing UMBC grad. But yeah, his the money that he donated, which was huge. One is a statement, but also money follows money. So, him putting in his money first, I think could be a catalyst for others.
Okay. Why'd you choose Hopkins? I imagine you could have went anywhere you wanted.
Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest, Alicia, you're the hottest game in town right now. That's what the word on the street is. I know you're gonna play modest. Hottest game in town right now.
No. It's a lot of folks. Let me tell you, I could give you a whole roster of a whole lot of folks doing it.
Okay. Give me one.
Shalonda Stokes. You gotta take. I give her. I keep going. I keep
go to Poly.
She went to Poly.
I did 2 years or so at Poly. Me and Poly didn't work out. I ended back in East Baltimore. Dunbar.
I mean, you got Monica Mitchell. I can keep going. I can go all day. I promise you. I can go all day. Monica Mitchell, Wells Fargo. I can give you names all day.
Give us some more. It's Women's History Month. Let's celebrate some of these women.
All right, I'll keep going. Let's see. I was just on with her today. Patrice Sanders. She's at Fox 45. Amazing. Let's keep going. Let's see.
Gotta throw in Diane Bell.
Diane Bell McCoy. Yep, absolutely.
As a matter of fact, I think she helped me to meet you.
Yep. Lisa Hamilton and Annie Casey. I mean, let's just keep going. I can go all day. Now I'm going to be in trouble because I'm not naming names.
No. This was extemporaneous.
Janet Curry just became the president of Bank of America for Maryland. That's huge.
What does that mean for the rest of us?
Oh, Cherie Johnson. She became the general counsel of W.R. Grace. Huge deal. I mean, you have Ava Booker, former managing partner of McGuire Woods. I mean, I could just keep going on and on. I should have come with a list, but there's so many, so many. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm very appreciative of people thinking at the hottest game in town. There's a lot of hot games in town, a lot of amazing women and men that are doing great work. They just don't get the platform all the time.
Well, we have to get them on this show, and that's the whole purpose of this show. Because
a lot of great people. I try to put them all on my social media to really just. It is excellence and brilliance in our community is common.
We don't.
It is common. It's common.
You say it.
It is.
I know it, but
I can tell you, it is. It is more common than not.
I know, Alicia, but we are bombarded every single day with negative stories about our community. We don't hear those stories every day. What we hear every day is murder, drugs, guns, vacant houses. That's what Fox reports. let a politician get in trouble. That's what the Baltimore Brew is on. The media, it bombards us from Instagram. I'm looking from a phone, from the phone to, you know, we are every single, especially in Baltimore, it's as if there are those that don't want the stories you are telling us about to flood us. Let those stories flood us.
Tell the story. Why isn't, you know, we have so many people who are the first here. And I'm not talking like 5 years ago. I'm talking about a week ago. We had like 4 appointments of huge Black leaders in the city taking on corporate posts, getting appointed to boards. I mean, Marjorie, just think she got appointed to Exelon's board. Do you know how big a deal it is to be appointed to a Fortune 500 board? Unheard.
Well, I also have an understanding too, Alicia, that when we Black people get in those doors, there's a certain pressure put on us that white people don't have to deal with. They never have to deal with. We have to, and there's a book I read back in college about Black flight, where the Black middle class, those of us that go from the city, move to Randallstown, Towson, we're not accepted in the hood anymore because we have progressed, but we're also not accepted totally in white America either because we're not white. That dichotomy.
Yeah, I mean, I think
we lose ourselves sometimes.
I think that happens sometimes. I don't think it happens all the time. I think it happens less than, I tell you this much. If they lose themselves when they walk in that door of a boardroom or wherever, they were always lost. The platform just changed. They were always lost. That don't change. Power sometimes changes, you folks. I think it just reveals them. They were that way before they got in that room. I'll tell you this, when I became, I'm not going to say their name because it would embarrass them. When I got appointed to a corporate board, it would like almost make me cry. Like the amount of Black women that just reached out to me to say, hey, can I help you understand how to go through your board book? Can I help you like orient you around like what happens in that room, like the committees, all those things? I also had white men do that for me. But I'm just saying, like, there are good people. They really are. There's a segment of folks that never know who they are. And then you just can't, there's nothing you can do about it.
I got it. I'm just saying, when I think of Atlanta, there's an expectation that Black people are in leadership positions and that these Black people understand what many of our parents taught us growing up: to whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
When I go to DC, I think back to the days of Marion Barry. There was an expectation that Black millionaires were being built.
Yeah.
I just don't sense that here in Baltimore per se. Or maybe I'm missing it. Like you say, maybe I'm hanging in the wrong places.
I think there are more Black millionaires than you would ever believe here.
Well, can they come to East and West Baltimore? Because I'm looking at vacants, Alicia.
You know, and part of it is, you know, some of it's new wealth, right? So if you're new wealth, you know, you still taking care of family. You're still taking care of a whole lot of people.
You know, Steve Harvey said he don't answer no phone calls from the old neighborhood. So for me, that would be not taking any 443 phone calls.
You still had to take some of those phone calls. But I say that all of that to say, Donnie, my daddy used to say this. We were talking about daddy stories, sayings. My dad said, it all can't be bad. He used to say that all the time. It all can't be bad, right? When people just try to reduce a people or a class or any individual to the worst that they've done, not a full story. It's better, so many good things. And so, if you want to find, I try to search out for the goodness. It's a lot of good here. A lot of people doing really well. A lot of people could be doing better. And that's the challenge. That's the opportunity.
Okay, she says the glass is half full. Bob, welcome back.
Yeah, in some ways, I got more computers than Carver got, liver pills, but only one of them likes you at a time, Donnie. I just got to search for the right one.
It's all good. Come on back, Bob.
I'm here. I think I'm here to the end of the program this time. I think.
Well, do you have any questions for Alicia?
Let me get back into the flow just a little bit, because I didn't hear the end of. I heard you all telling daddy stories, but I don't have any of those because my father was killed. My father was killed when I was 17, so I don't have a lot of stories to tell in that respect. And I didn't even know who he was until I was 5.
Well, the topic had to do with Black progress in a Black city.
Well,
and she described a number of Black women, including some firsts, just as of last week, who have been making unprecedented strides. And I raised a question about those of us who forget what our parents told us when we were younger, to whom much is given, much is required. Because if we had so many, my argument is, if we had so many Blacks that understood the truth, we'd be doing better. But she says, it's not all bad.
Well, Don, as I've said before, Harriet Tubman said, I could have freed more of them, but they didn't know they were slaves. Okay. If they'd known they were slaves, I could have freed more. There's only one real question in the universe, and that is, who decides who decides? The person who decides decides everything. Okay. When my grandmother told me that, as many Black parents and grandparents told their children and grandchildren, you got to be twice as good, or you got to be better, or they weren't, that was not an acknowledgement of inferiority. That was an observation of what was then true. Now, the problem is that observation assumes that those in charge will remain so. Our problem as a people, we're still assuming the same thing. That's our problem as a people. We're still assuming the same thing, and we're still acting like it ain't supposed to change. And real progress won't happen unless the change comes, in my opinion.
No, that's not a question. Is that a question?
No, it's not a question. It's a statement intended to provoke reaction, but I acknowledge it's not a question.
Okay, well, we have one of the sharpest Black women in Baltimore right here on the show, and I just figured you were going to ask some questions about equity and inclusion. Those new buzz terms you've introduced me to.
I don't use terms like tolerance and diversity, because they all presume that there's somebody, that we're the ones that got to be accepted, that we're the ones who have to be tolerated, that we're the ones who have to assimilate. I reject all of those things out of hand, because I see what it brought us to. A lot of people applaud the so-called civil rights movement. I'm not one of them. I'm not saying there weren't some good things, as Alicia points out, but the fact of the matter is, the civil rights movement resulted in the denial of our value as human beings. Look around. Where are the institutions that were ours? Where is Cess's? Where is Sampson's? Where is the Royal Theater? Where are the schools where the teachers live next door to the parents, and you were afraid to act up in school because the teacher would be home telling your parent before you could get there? Where are those days now? We've arrived. We've got. Go ahead.
At least those days are gone and will never return. Matter of fact, if you spank your kid, you might get locked up.
There is a way to discipline children, but no, there is. I completely understand. I mean, my mom, my mom grew up in High Point, North Carolina,
got it.
She's 76 years old, and talked about, always talks about the pride and what they lost, in the rich community they had. Oh, Michael Haney's on. Oh, nice. I love Michael Haney. I think there's, I listened to her and how much, oh, Zanaya, all the kids. I mean, she's distracting me. I really do believe in that. Great. But I don't think, I do think we can regain it. I mean, I think you see all these young entrepreneurs. I think you see a real movement to try to own. I think folks understand the power of rebuilding and building upon community. I am hopeful. I mean, I know, Donnie, you may think like Alicia's pie in the sky. I think
no, I don't think that. I think you probably
make so much. Yeah.
I think you have an idea of what we can get, and you go for it. And what we can get, is no need in wasting energy on it. Just like our limited political capital in America. We like to protest everything. We like to be on every lawsuit, but with a limited bandwidth, we have to maximize our limited resources. I'm clear.
Well, yeah. I would like to ask this question, Alicia. If I'm going to present you with, as though I've had the authority, I present you with a clear canvas, nothing on it, and I'm going to give you a set of paintbrushes and an array of colors and paints of all different hues. Show me the picture when the world is the way you think it should be. Paint me a picture.
That's a good. So first of all, I think that individuals should have the ability to really, at a foundational level, grow up in a family that allows for them to set a foundation for them to propel to their individual greatness, right? I do think of it at a very basic level.
Mm-hmm.
I am who I am because I was born into a family with Thomas Wilson and Josephine Wilson as the two parents in my household. And even if they weren't in my household, I just was born into a place where I was loved and supported. And I think every child deserves that.
Okay.
Very basic level. I think when you propel out of that with a family unit, I think you have neighborhoods and blocks of residents that are caring about one another because they are at peace in their own house, in their own individual house.
Mm-hmm.
They have a strengthened tide of values and principles and guidance. After you get at that most basic level of the family unit and the neighborhood level, you talk about a government that is responsive in doing government's role, which is to govern, to set the most basic needs of everyone at an equitable level, right? And so it shouldn't depend on your zip code whether my trash gets picked up or your trash gets picked up or I get better services than you. We should all have most basic opportunities at that level. And then as you lift up, then you think about the institutions that are within the landscape. Really, they are both propelling us towards a greater fun places where people can have those families where their folks can work in, but also institutions that those families can build for themselves. So, how could you have, a Johnson family or Willie Adams? How can we have companies that are coming out of Baltimore from folks, institutions that aren't just things that are, sort of 100 years old, but things that are legacy within our community. So those are some of my thoughts on sort of if I painted the brush.
I got to play devil's advocate. You mentioned Willie Adams. Hold up, Mr. Bob. We had hold up, Mr. Bob. Hold tight.
The devil doesn't need an advocate. Why are you advocating for the devil? Devil don't need an advocate.
Let me ask another question.
Just messing with you.
Go ahead. Let me ask another question. You asked me. Let me follow up with let me follow up. All right. Sure. Traditionally in Baltimore and most other places, it's the mantra is we got to reduce real property taxes. We got to reduce real property taxes. We got to reduce real property taxes. The fact of the matter is, government in Baltimore needs more money. Where's it going to come from? I mean, we can have all the programs you want. We cannot count on philanthropic or eleemosynary endeavors. The government is there, in my opinion, to protect those who have, not from the overzealousness of those who have. Where does the city get the money that it needs to service the population as it now exists? Not the ones who some think should come back, but the people who are currently here, those who got displaced when Best Steel shut down, which decimated the middle class, not just of Black folk, but the whole city. Where does the city get the money from without raising some kind of taxes? And I don't mean the funny business like the environmental police and speed cameras and all of that. I mean the real fundamental institutional change. Where does it get the money?
So I think it's in stages and phases, right? Okay. So we have real property, and I'm talking about real property, vacants, others. It's not in taxable use. You're not recovering taxes from, right? You're not recovering any revenue for the city from on those fronts. I would say, in many respects, we should have something where we bundle those and create deals that there could be an ability for local residents to buy into, but to put those back into use, right? So blocks vacants, if you bundled them and sold them and put them back into taxable use, city-owned property, right? So schools that have gone out of use, that are just large swaths, we should be attracting businesses that could put those buildings to taxable use. You could almost give them away free and then get the use back. You could give those vacants away free. I mean, bump a dollar, you could give them away free if you could get them back in taxable use in 2 years and create and have revenue from them. You think about, but we have to attract not just businesses that are at the highest level, so Fortune 500, but how do we retain and have prosper those businesses that are at the mid-level that allow for revenue to be spent in our city? So those businesses that employ 200 to 300 individuals, making between 70 to 80,000, 90,000, $100,000 in the tech and the cyber. So we in Baltimore and in Maryland, we sit on cyber gold. If we were in Texas, we'd be drilling for oil. We are sitting on really in Baltimore cyber gold. This is never like no other places. We're like this. We could be the San Francisco of the East. Attracting those businesses. We're between NIH, APL. I mean, we just have such a rich bounty. How do we get businesses here that'll end up paying taxes and having individuals that will pay taxes, buying homes that will to the tax property base.
Well, getting back to tying that into one of your earlier comments about the family being the foundation, I wholeheartedly believe in that. The problem, as I see it, is. Let me restate it. 99 and 9/10% of all people who will ever achieve economic stability in their lives are going to get it if at all, from the wages they earn. They're going to be W-2 employees. They're not going to be entrepreneurs. They're not going to head large companies. They're going to go to work 9 o'clock in the morning and hopefully get off at 5 and not have to go back in at 5:30 and get off at 11 and not have to go back in at midnight. How do we get enough money and benefits into the pockets of people so that they can work a regular 9-to-5 job and function as a family rather than as a revolving door with people coming and leaving and nobody there to raise or rear the children? How do we do and how do we do that within a time frame such that the people who are not there now have enough faith and confidence that with government help they will get there in their lifetime?
So I don't think there's one panacea, but I do think a couple of good things that are going on. One is, people may take issue with this. college educated individuals earn more over their lifetime than non-college educated individuals.
I agree. I totally agree.
Just facts, just facts. You know, I chair the board of the College Bound Foundation, which operating in high schools across Baltimore City to help young people in our city. I'm a College Bound alum, so I went to college through the College Bound program. Get into and graduate from college, and then this is the challenge. This is the big challenge that we all are facing. Not leave Baltimore. Not leave Baltimore and earn income here. Stay here and grow their career here, be a W-2 employee, buy a house here, build their family here in the city. We're fighting to keep every single one of them. And that education is critical. It is just critical. I you know, people say you don't need a college degree. Let me just tell you, I see jobs every day. I can tell you, at a bare minimum, they are not looking for, they're not $200,000 jobs sitting out here where they're looking for people who don't have a college degree. It just isn't happening.
I mean,
hold up, Mr. Bob. I got to add in something, especially when you have free junior college. So, given that Baltimore City Public Schools, we can agree that they've been producing, generally speaking, an inferior product. Yes?
But I don't agree with that.
Okay, well, from what I see, something is wrong, but you need 2 years of junior college just for the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And so I don't subscribe to that note that not everybody's built for college. Well, if you ain't getting what you need in high school, you're damn straight you need to go to college at least to get the basics.
I agree. Everybody's not for a 4-year college coming straight out of high
school. Not a 4-year, but a 2-year. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Because if you're going to run a construct anything, what they teach you at Mervo, carpentry, plumbing, you still have to have some basic accounting, some basic skills.
But Donnie, education in college is not the same thing. Education in colleges, I represent a number of companies, and they have employees who make well in excess of $70,000 a year, and all of them with high school, and all of them with high school diplomas. And the fact is, no, public education today in Baltimore City is not what it once was. But all of the Black leaders that we herald came from that public education system. So that tells me it can do. It can produce.
It can.
It may not be today, but we can't keep taking a picture of today and saying that that's what's going to be in the future. We got to find a way. We got to look backwards and see what has really changed. Why isn't the school system today what it was during the time of Thurgood Marshall? Why isn't the school system today what it was during the time of Juanita Jackson Mitchell? What has changed over those years?
That I also would say, Robert.
Yeah.
Why isn't it's not just, you know, I think the misnomer is, even, you know, those, why isn't our family unit the same as it was during those days?
I got a bunch of answers for you.
Why aren't we sending our children prepared? My mom did not send me to kindergarten for that teacher to teach me ABCs. She just didn't. She did not send me to kindergarten to learn how to read. She did not think that she was not a co-partner with the school system in my success. My parents, my daddy sold televisions all day long, but you know, he never missed a PTA, not one PTA, not one report card that my parents not see my progress report, how I was doing. It's a co-partnership, right? I think sometimes, you know, I think we're making the same point. You can't put on a school system what a parent ought to do. And you can't put on a parent what a school system ought to do. It's a partnership.
But we also have to understand the social. We
you
also have to
out there.
Wait a minute, Donna. Let her finish. Let her finish. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, you just don't throw children out there. You anything you care for, you monitor, you move through, you make sure they get what they need. I mean, I think it's a partnership, and I think relegating educating only to that school system, it's not going to work.
The only thing I was able to take to school was my grandmother's love and a sack full of scrapple and egg sandwiches.
And
My
that
grandmother,
love
my
took you a long
grandmother,
way.
my grandmother raised us, all six of us. She dropped out of school in the third grade. Nobody in my family ever attended even a graduation, let alone a school, let alone a PTA meeting. So while certainly I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you 100%. But the difference when I went to school in Salisbury, Maryland, and graduated as the last class of what was in Salisbury High School when it was all black. The difference was the teachers lived next door. The teachers.
Oh, I'm not saying that's not. I think that's a difference maker too. I mean, I think it is and. I don't think it's or. That's right. I think
I agree. It's not. It's a combination of things.
I wanted to add that there have been a lot of attacks since we were children, Alicia, on the black community. Crack cocaine, sanctioned by Ronald Reagan, Colonel Oliver North, destroyed East and West Baltimore. Before that, the heroin and the powder cocaine. Let's also look at mass incarceration. Since we grew up, there was Bill Clinton and the 1994 Omnibus Crime Bill. You look at mass incarceration. This country has 5% of the world's citizens, but 25% of the world's inmates. And where I live in West Baltimore, we produce the largest number of people that head towards these institutions. You look at the downward spiral. Baltimore City Public Schools is not what it was in our day. We had black teachers a lot of times who loved us, and white teachers too. The whole school system is inverted, as well as the laws that you can't pray in school, that you can't spank your child, that your kid can call the police on you. A whole lot has changed.
Yeah, and we can't keep looking for something new, because in my judgment, there really is nothing new under the sun. I don't care how many new labels you put on it. There's nothing new under the sun. What's new is getting the people into positions who really care and who really know how to approach the problem. I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. I agree with everything but look, you can't have a school system where D is a passing grade. I don't give a damn whose system it is.
No,
D is not passing.
I agree.
Because that says to our kids, go out and find a job where you can do poorly.
You're so right. I mean, the reality is and I remember as a woman, a teacher named Miss Daniel. I was hoping I would remember her name. And I remember she asked this question of us one time, and she said, what do you always need to be conscious of as you're progressing? And the answer to the question was the competition, right? You don't realize the competition's not being satisfied with the D.
Yeah.
Not satisfied. Like the competition, you lift up and you realize, I mean, Robert Donnie, you lift up and you look around and you're like, the competition is running so fast. So fast. We got to prepare them to run fast. So the statement that you made earlier about you gotta be twice as good, that's not a question of inferiority, it's a question of the pace.
Yeah.
What the competition demands, right? You want to win the race. If you want to be addicted to winning, you have to, everybody can be good. One or two can be excellent.
But we also can't negate the impact of institutional racism. We mentioned Diana Boyd, and she's been talking about the impact of institutional racism on finances. But we only asked you for 1 hour. So while in my last minute, I gotta ask you, can we get more scholarships for Baltimore City public school students who can handle the curriculum at Johns Hopkins under your tenure? Can we get more black students at Hopkins?
Yes, but do you know Hopkins has an initiative called the Baltimore Scholars Program?
I do. I've been pushing it. I was making noise before they started. That happened to maybe.
So any Baltimore City public school student that is admitted to Hopkins goes for free based on their need. So they can go, we have many students from Baltimore City that pay $0 to go to Johns Hopkins University.
Wow, they
We would
didn't have
like
that when
we
my
would
daughter
like
went
to
there.
celebrate them. I would like to write about them. I would like to promote that story. I am the #1 critic of Hopkins, but if you're doing something good, I will be the first one.
I have actually three of the Baltimore Scholars working with me on a project, and they are brilliant.
Can I get reimbursed for the tuition I paid for my daughter? That's all I want.
Send it one more time. Send it through there one more time. One more time.
Oh boy, what
It's a pleasure being with both of you.
Nice meeting you. Alicia, we were not introduced, but I was in the audience one day in City Hall when you were then with, I think, Sagamore, and you were talking about the Port Covington. Sheila Dixon was there representing, I think, the Maryland Minority Contractors Association at the time. And I was not introduced to you mostly because I didn't want to be. I just wanted to hear what you had to say. I'm glad we finally got a chance to meet.
Likewise.
We love you, Alicia. You to maintain your East Side credibility. East Side!
Yes.
Peace
Good to
out.
see you, my friend. Thank you for all you do, both of you.
Thank you. Peace out.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
This has been a wonderful day. Keep watching BlackUSA.News. We got a couple of comments. Let's get them in there. Tavis, we see you from Philadelphia. Rico, thank you for all your support, Rico. Andy, all the way from Hungary. Michael Haney, send that check. My name's Donnie Glover. Keep watching BlackUSA.News. We'll be back 7 o'clock tonight for more programming. Party Marty, let's talk. 7 p.m.